Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to On the Brink with Carly Brinkman. It was all in my name. That's why I didn't have to do much work with that. And today I am so excited to have G Dizzle Manizzle on, not his official name, you'll be surprised to hear, joining me today. G Diz, how are you?
Hello, Carly.
Not
I'm beyond thrilled to be joining you today.
Did you say thrilled or not thrilled?
No, I'm beyond thrilled, I said, to be joining you today. So thrilled
Brilliant.
am I that the cushion beneath my posterior has gone suddenly very moist.
Well, we actually have sun in Manchester, so
That's a
I love
good
this.
start, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. I love this jumper, but I feel like I'm slowly marinating in this, Gary. That's okay.
Let's see which
Medium.
of us melts first then,
I'm rare to medium at the moment, but potential with the sun coming in through the window, I
eh?
could be well done by the end of this podcast.
You will be. Yeah, anyway, sorry. Let's try and
Let's,
inject a little air of professionalism into
let's.
this.
We are
I
always,
remember my days at the BBC. This would not have gone down well. Uh,
and this is what I love about you, Gary, is that I often get taunted by my friends when I talk about my life, and then I'll say something, they're like, oh, another one. And this is what I love about you. I feel like I don't even know just that much about your life, which is great because there's so much to know, which is fantastic.
no, I mean, I think, to be honest, the more people know about my life, the duller I become. So,
Oh,
so I
okay.
keep stum and play the enigma.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
my
the
policy.
enigma. That's it. But you're too open to be an enigma. Can you be an open enigma?
I don't know. Perhaps I can. Yeah, perhaps I
Yeah.
am.
Perhaps that's your superpower as an enigma.
Yeah,
You're rewriting what an enigma is.
I think there is that thing, and maybe this is good for writers, but
Yes.
there is that thing about me that people assume they know lots and lots about me. But then occasionally they go, do you know what? Actually, I've known you for like 10, 15 years. And I thought to myself the other day, I know very little about you, actually. And I think, good. Not that I'm a particularly sort of enclosed or secretive person, but I think writers are we observe, we seem to participate, but part of us, maybe the larger, more interesting, more serious, more profound part of us is, you know, off somewhere else and sort of observing. So
Yeah, yeah, totally. Now, the first question, because I don't really want this to be firing questions at you, but with all my guests, I'd like to just start with how we met. So it's more a story of how we met, because I've met lots of wonderful people in my life. So let's start there, G Dizzle. How did we meet?
right, so once upon a time I went along to the writer space, which is run by Ironclad Creative in Brighton. The writer space gives the opportunity for writers like myself to meet in the Rare Books Room in Brighton Library and write for 2 hours. So there's kind of no excuses. You're very exposed if you're in the room and you're not actually writing. If you're sitting there doing Sudoku or whatever. You were there on this particular occasion, and I thought, oh, new face, okay, fair enough. And we got chatting, I think quite by chance at the end. And I remember you saying to me that you'd written a book and you were looking for an editor. And I seem to remember, and I may be misquoting you, so you can jump in and correct me, that you'd written this book and it was fucking brilliant. And of course, my first reaction, and I don't think I betrayed any of that, was like, well, I'll be the judge of that. Because as a writer, as a teacher, as a mentor, as an editor, my experience unfortunately tells me that 99.9% of everything I see is not particularly good. So I remember saying, well, I'm an editor if you want me to take a look at your work, and I handed you my card. And a week went by, I didn't hear anything, and I thought, well, okay, I wasn't particularly expecting to hear, and I thought, fair enough, I'll be saved the embarrassment from telling Carly that I can't work with her because she's not good enough. But then a week later, an email came through from you with your novel attached. So with my cynicismometer turned up to max, I open the document and I say, oh, oh, my little heart goes pitter-pat, pitter-pat. This is actually very good. Oh, yeah, those rare moments. So I was, you know this, I'm not going to say that you don't know. So I behaved slightly unprofessionally, well, perhaps very unprofessionally, and got in touch with a writer friend of mine called Jim Harris. There you go, shout out to you, Jim. And said, Jim, can you take a look at the opening few pages of this? Is it as good as I think it is? Or am I sort of under the influence of some fever or something? Or have I developed a brain tumor and I can't think straight? So I sent it to Jim and Jim came back, no, it's very good. So it's rare that I ask for a second opinion. But if the work is particularly strong, there's always that, we're human, we tend, although I've had decades of experience, with working with other writers, I was still caught off guard by your work. So that's how we met. And I remember you were, I learned this very quickly, you're never in one space for more than a few minutes. You were flying off to Portugal. So I edited the book, got it into some kind of shape and then sent it to you. Then we decided that there were 2 chapters that could be usefully stripped out and turned into a novel on their own. And that's where the children's book that we did together came into being. So that's, well, you can take over now.
Yeah.
That's how we met. That's how we started working together, and we've been working together ever since.
And it's been a pleasure. And it feels like I asked you that question just so you could tell everybody how good I am at writing.
Yeah, no, I thought.
Hey Gary, just if you could just remember when you read my work and how amazing I was.
Yeah, no, I did get a whiff of the sulphurous whiff of cunning there. I did.
And that wasn't the intention at all. I feel like because I've met so many wonderful people and there'll be so many different people on this podcast series, I think the one thread that I want to, connect it all together is how I met the person. And then also on the brink, those moments when we've been on the brink. And then the rest of it's just to chat with a friend, which
right.
I love. And yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And just to add to that, when I was writing the book, and the reason why I said it was fucking brilliant or fucking powerful, perhaps I said.
Yeah, but I did. Powerful did come into it, I think.
Yeah. And the reason why I can say that, and it's interesting when I've heard your relationships with writers, or usually how they present themselves, it's often like, oh no, I'm not sure if this is good enough, quite self-deprecating. And the reason that I can be so confident in my writing, and we've discussed this so many times, is that it's not mine, and it's a really interesting idea to sit with. And we've discussed it, how we are merely the scribes, that when I write something, it's something coming to me, and I've been given the gift to share this story, and that's when I can take myself out of it and allow what these characters, because for me they're living, they're real entities of pulsating aliveness, and when I tap into that and get into what they want me to say, that's when I can say it's powerful. And what's really interesting, the book that I thought was fucking powerful, I remember we were working on it for a little while, and then you were like, I was like, oh god, it's a bit patchy, this. And I remember asking you, and that's what I love about you, you're always so honest about writing, and you said, yeah, it's patchy. And I was like, oh god. And then I remember you saying that there's 2 books in this. The first chapter, which was about a guy who just discovered his friend.
Oh yes, Chocolate Ricky.
Ricky. And the other one was about this young girl. And I remember saying to you that, god, this is really boring, like writing a diary about a little girl is boring. And this is not verbatim, but you said, actually, writing is all about sharing those moments that may seem mundane, and the art of good writing is writing from that point and making it up.
I mean, I think there's a quote. Yes, it's a quote by Schopenhauer. 99% certain it's Schopenhauer, who said the duty of the writer is not to write about great things, but to make small ones interesting.
Oh, Oh, and this is
And
what
when I came across that, I was very much younger, and I just thought that really resonated with me, and it has stayed with me. And I think in many ways it is at the basis of a lot of what I write. I don't write globally, it's the universal in the particular, I think, which interests me.
Yeah,
So,
that's sweet. And what was the book that you wrote? Because I know as a mentor and as someone that champions emerging writers and often works with people that don't have the confidence or self-belief to pursue writing. And I know you don't often like talking about your work because you give so much to other people, but can you just talk about the book? It was about tea or something. Can you, I've forgotten the title.
oh God, yes. No, I'm going back an awfully long way. Um, I just finished something. I can't remember what that was now. And then some people started asking me, "Oh, well, what is it you're going to write next?" And I said glibly and off the cuff, "I'm going to write a novel about a man who makes a cup of tea." And I was going on like this for quite a few months. And then suddenly I thought, I'm going to write a novel about a man who makes a cup of tea,
Mhm.
which is exactly what I did. And it's called, do I know what it's called? An unnecessary stain, potentially.
Mhm.
Um, but that was the basis. So for me, very little actually happened, but paradoxically, everything happened. I often find, which is why I get very dissatisfied with thrillers, that the spine's kind of cracking with action. But at the end of the day, I sit there and I'm bored out of my skull because it's full of sound and fury signifying nothing. God
Mhm.
forbid that I should quote Shakespeare, but I think it's those in fiction for me, it's those quiet, almost unregarded moments that can be the most powerful, which is maybe why my favourite novel of all time is Graham Greene's The End of the Affair,
Mhm.
which in many ways could be seen as quite pedestrian. Um, I'm not going to say very much about it if for those people that are listening, if you haven't read it, then shame on you.
I read it.
Address that error immediately. But I think it's the everyday lives that people live that really do fascinate me, and there's interest to be gained and to be mined from that.
Mhm.
So I think my canvases might be quite small,
Mhm.
but my work, I think, I'd like to think it has that intensity. And
Mhm.
I want, and I suppose I want people to look at their own lives and maybe reflect upon their situation through having read something that I might have written. That sounds quite grandiose, so I'm going to stop there.
No, I don't. I don't think it does at all, actually. And I feel like as a society, we're often seeking those incredible moments, those pivotal, extraordinary moments.
Mm.
I think there's some sort of moments that are extraordinary that we often miss. And I feel like a lot of writers, and again, we've spoken about this before, Gary, that a lot of writers are chasing the need to be published because then that gives them some validation. And sometimes they can write for publication, find out what is trending, find out what. Sorry, I've got a joss stick on at the moment. I don't know if you can see the smoke. I'm
I
just
thought I was hallucinating. I thought I was moving onto another spiritual realm.
just called in the angels and the spirits to come in. I'm clearing the energy.
um,
But yeah, so that they're chasing this dream of what it may mean to be a writer and the accolades and the feedback for a lot of people, but
mm,
they miss it. They miss those moments of the process of writing, of allowing those characters to come to you and the joy of it. I remember you sending me a couple of quotes and it sounded like a lot of anguish a lot of writers were in, like this dread and this intensity. And I was like, I bloody love writing. It's like when I can sit down for 2 hours and be immersed in someone
mm,
else's world and allow them to guide me through this book. It's
mm.
getting back to bloody reality. That's where I struggle.
I'm so glad you asked me that question because I was hoping it would come up, and I wasn't going to try and engineer our conversation so that it did. But I said this to somebody recently. Anyone, I would argue, anyone who writes just merely to be published possibly shouldn't write, because you have to write for the writing itself. There's a good, there's a little story that it's very appropriate for me to tell it at this point in time in our conversation. I'm convinced it's called to be where it came from, but I got this kind of second or third hand. But let's just say it was column to Bean, and if you're listening, you can deny or confirm that. He was talking to a group of young writers, possibly in a university setting. When I say young, I mean young in age, but also young in experience. And this young man in the room said, "Look, it may seem a stupid question, but how do I know if I'm a real writer? I think I'm a real writer, but how would I kind of know that? Is there a way? Is there a rule or something?" And come to be. So, okay, well, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll lay out this scenario in front of you and see how you respond. So let's take it as a given that you can write. You're a very good writer, and you will write throughout your life, but you will never, ever be published. You will die and never see a single word that you've written in print. Do you still want to do it? And of course, the immediate answer is yes, because that was the answer I gave. Of course, why would you ask? But I think a lot of people that I've come into contact with would almost certainly, and in fact, some of them have, and I've told the story again, oh God, no, I wouldn't do it. No, I wouldn't do it under those circumstances. And then I think, well, perhaps it's a good idea for you to go away and have a bit of a conversation with your conscience or whatever. We don't write to be recognised. We don't write to be famous. We don't write to be wealthy. We don't write to be critically fated. If those things come along as part of the package, well, that's fantastic. But it's about the validation thing, Carly, that you said. We should never write to be validated, because I don't know. I think that's a very treacherous path to go down.
It's really dangerous, isn't it? And it's, I remember you asking me when we first started working together who my influences were, like authors, and I couldn't really come up with anything. And then I felt a bit, I don't know, I just thought, oh God, like I can't really think of any writers that really guide me or inspire me. But then I came to the conclusion it's life that inspires me, Gary. It can be a conversation with a lady at a bus stop. It can be, and I've had so many wonderful conversations with people at bus stop or witness people on bus stops. It could be a conversation somewhere that sparks something. It could be a shower. All of these parts of me, because I don't think I differentiate writing and life. I think life presents to me opportunities, as you said, to witness and to be in those moments. I love film. I've always been an avid film fan, and I've always enjoyed prose and writing. But I don't feel, To Kill a Mockingbird, that is one of my favourite books of all time. And the film and the theatre show, I was quite surprised actually, because often, you read a book and then you watch the film and you don't enjoy it. But for me, it's just everything inspires me, Gary, just walking along and, we had some pigeons in the back garden today eating some mealworms, and just looking at Raffles there doing his thing and having a bit of a standoff with the squirrel. Inspiring, like that for me. that for me is something. Or just like, and I feel like if you're open enough, like you said at the beginning, as a writer, to just be open for life to show you and guide, whether that's a book, a piece of music, anything where people are expressing themselves in some way. And again, I think there is a kind of, I'm trying to think what it is. There's a highbrow and lowbrow in regards to great literature. And, some people that write for the tabloids or write for broadsheets or write for well-known literary sites, then they sometimes are from particular kind of ilk and put themselves in a box, and will sometimes say they're inspired by particular writers. And there
Right.
are
Yeah.
great,
Okay.
and I get that there's great writing out there, but I don't think I box myself into that, because I think you can miss out on so much. We all have preferences in regards to what inspires us or motivates us,
Mm.
and there is arguably great writers out there, and I feel like if everybody came together that are great writers, there probably would be similarities there.
Yeah.
I just don't exclude. I really don't. I think there's opportunities everywhere to be exposed to something to inspire you.
I totally agree. I think if you are fairly widely read, though,
Yeah,
as I have been called, and
yeah,
and reading, yeah, most of my life, I think it's inevitable that the influence of other writers will bleed into your own work,
yeah.
possibly without you recognise it. I remember,
Totally.
this popped into my head when I was at university. A very good friend of mine, John Burns, who was a great champion of me really as a writer. He said, "I've read your stuff, and there's two writers that I immediately think of." And I went, "Oh yeah, who's that then, John?" And he went, "Thomas." See, I'm laughing when I say it, I still laugh. Thomas Hardy and Vladimir Nabokov. And I'm like, well, I'll take that because I love Nabokov. But I said, I really think, I mean, I think we were in the pub, and John was, or I might say, was a professional drinker. We'd go in there at 5, and by 5:15 he was on pint 4 or 5. So I just thought, oh, that's the alcohol talking. And it probably took me a good 10 years for that little epiphany where I suddenly thought, do you know, I think John was right. I can see Thomas Hardy, I can see Vladimir Nabokov. So he was very much ahead of the curve there. But again, I was completely oblivious of that. So I think if one's going to be influenced, the trick to doing that successfully is to not realise that you are being influenced.
Listening to you there, maybe it's the rebellious side of me, and it's not ego, definitely not. And maybe that's something I'm aware of, that I don't really want to be influenced by anyone. And as we know, like, nothing is original. We are just recycling, like recycling
Mhm.
words and rhythms in our writing. But there's a part of me sometimes that I just want to be a blank canvas, that there is something about completely clearing a space of not being influenced by anything and allowing it to come in. There's something, I don't know, there's something that really calls to me for that. And obviously I've been influenced, I've lived a life, I've had certain experiences, I've read certain books, I've been around certain people, so there is certainly an influence in my life. But there's something for me as a writer that I really like to clear it and allow the day to unfold and what's happening in my experience to influence me. So there is an influence there, but I guess I just am more in tune with what life is showing me. Like, for example, my new novel's about a guy who accidentally, well, not accidentally, but denies the fact that he's got cancer. I mean, that is not a subject that I would choose to write about, right? It's just not a subject, because it's difficult to write about that and also have the protagonist as someone who pretends he's got cancer. I mean,
Mhm.
as a person, I wouldn't, I've known people with cancer. I've listened to stories of people with cancer. And then I remember when I started to write it, then everybody in my life who I spoke to, I'd watch a show, it was about cancer. I spoke to someone, it was about cancer. So I feel like when you really embody the book,
Mm.
sometimes life reflects that to you. What do you feel about that, Gary?
I think, yeah, I would agree with that. Although, as I say, I don't consciously write under the influence of any other
No.
novels. Clearly, they are present somewhere on occasion. But for me, I mean, I think this comes back. There's the notion of waiting for the great idea. See,
Hmm.
I've never had an idea in my life.
Hmm.
And again, to quote Nabokov, the end of the quote is "Great ideas are hogwash," and I think the pursuit of the perfect idea is what stops a lot of people from writing. You don't need So in that sense, yeah, I don't write. I don't need to be influenced by
Mhm.
anything or anybody to write. I start off with the opening line and I go from there. One draft finished, no research along the way. So I mean, I must have pulled at least a few threads, mental threads, to be able to have got the book from A to B. But I'm very much prefer to write without the notion of somebody standing at my shoulder and looking at my screen. I do
Mhm.
like the ultimate freedom of being able to do what I need to do, as I say, and even having an idea can be a bit of a straitjacket for me, which is why I don't bother with ideas, and I try and encourage my students. You know, ideas in and of themselves are not worth anything. So, I might take a handful of coins out of my pocket and slap them on the table and go, that's something. It's just, what is it? These are various sort of, pieces of metal, different shapes, different colors, different thicknesses, but that's all they are. But what you do with that, so there's no such thing as a great idea. A novel about the man who makes a cup of tea. I think that's possibly one of the best things I've ever done. But it's a very, very uninspiring idea.
Mhm. And
Um,
yeah, maybe that is a sign of a true writer. Then, if they can take, and same as a musician, I'm always astounded by musicians. You get how many chords are there on a piano, and then how many chords are there on a guitar. But actually, when you get all the right people in the right position that come together, it's that kind of alchemizing all of those different
yeah,
parts
yeah, yeah,
together.
yeah.
And you work with lots of students, and you know, you've got a great eye for great writers. Um, and what is it, would you say? Because you've worked with students for many, many years. And obviously, the other part of it as well, Gary, you've nurtured a lot of students that initially you wouldn't say were perhaps natural writers, but you've seen something in them.
I've seen something, all right. There's that little, if you listen very carefully, there's that kind of very faint heartbeat. You think there might be something here. Um, and often it's strange. Perhaps not with you. You might be the exception that proves the rule. Often the best writers I've worked with, as best as in the most accomplished, have often been the least aware of what they are
Hmm.
capable of. They
Hmm.
have been that. Oh no, I don't think I can do it. Oh no, that kind of. I
Yeah.
don't say it's not faux modesty. It is genuinely expressed because they just don't see what I can see in their work. And normally, those few people that have said, "Oh, I think my writing is really, really good," um, I'm not taking great pleasure in telling them that it isn't. But so this is where you are very much the anomaly, you see. And I just thought, oh, Carly Brinkman, I've been here before, yeah. Rubbing my hands with glee, thinking next time I see her, I'll dismantle her like a Lego set or something. But I didn't, and it was brilliant. I mean, there's nothing that gives me greater pleasure than discovering someone who can write. It really is for me. It's just like the ultimate joy.
Mhm.
It's you can do this, and I suppose that's based. I mean, I've written since I was a very small child, so I have no memories of a life where I didn't write.
Yeah.
So for me, writing is the be all and end all. It's as necessary for me as the air in my lungs, the blood in my veins. Writing is me. Without it, I do cease to exist. Um, and to find somebody else with that, somebody else with a gift, is, yeah, it's extraordinary. And I don't know, I've seemed to have made it my life's mission, really.
And it is really interesting, like you said, that you've always written. So I'm just moving. This is getting really smoky again. You said that you've always written, and I remember you telling me a little story about when you did start to write, and whether it was a voice or just a knowing. Could you just share that little story
Yeah, I
when
will
you?
share that because it's a good story. So I probably, I don't know, 5, 6. I was off school with one of those childhood ailments, chicken pox, measles, mumps, or whatever. And my mum had made me up a bed on the sofa in the front room to safe I keep running up and down the stairs with my, sandwiches, glasses of squash or whatever. And so I was laying there in the front room, and I remember asking my mum, "Oh, could I have a pen and paper, Mum, please?" And she came in with an old-fashioned spiral-bound reporter's notebook and a biro. And I don't. Why did I even ask for it? I don't know. But I suddenly then started to write, and I hadn't covered more than maybe 2 pages, and there was the voice. Believe it or not, I don't know whether it was in my head or I don't know whether it was somewhere external, but the voice said, "You will do this for the rest of your life."
Wow.
And as a kid, you kind of go, "Yeah, all right then." You don't think, you don't process, you just go, "Fine." And I suppose, well, yeah, I've kept, if it was a promise, I've certainly kept up to my promise. So it just seemed like, well, this is what, for people that, I find people who don't write, it's like, even if you're terrible, but you're still missing out. It's like, yeah, I feel quite, I feel quite stuck. Yeah, although I suspect equally they feel sad for me, and possibly with more legitimacy. I don't know, but I think creativity is a good way, maybe not the perfect way, to come to terms with yourself and to understand that part of yourself which for most people remains eternally hidden and out of reach. Oh wow, just having said that, it's like, whoa, that's a big statement. But I would stand by that. Because
Well,
people, so sorry, go on.
no. I was just sorry to interrupt. I was just saying it.
No, you're
As
welcome.
a primary school teacher, an ex-primary school teacher, it's kind of taught out of you, Gary. And I think that's one thing I struggled with teaching in school is that a lot of the time creativity is very boxed in. You have got a lesson plan. You have got some learning objectives to meet. You can see the children with natural ability in that particular area, and you're trying to get somewhere. And that's where I feel like it's been filtered down in school. And also there's just not enough time for it now. And teachers are so stressed that you're teaching, especially in primary school, 5, 6, 7 subjects. You're planning your lessons. You're dealing with a lot more these days. And I feel like that's the opportunity for children to have that freedom to express themselves and get it wrong, and having the right teacher. I mean, there's great primary school teachers out there, but I don't know if there's a lot of opportunity for the teachers to allow the children to get it wrong a lot of the time and to mess up, because there's too many marks on there because they're marking against a scheme. And it's so frustrating to witness that, and also being part of that system. And I feel like that has been a lot of children, grow up and think they're not creative. And I argue that you can be creative in loads of different arenas and loads of different genres, and it should be for the joy of it. Like you said, if you want to be a writer, can you be happy not being published? That's when can you draw and just draw for the fun of it, and enjoy the process of getting better and enjoying it and learning about the different materials, the tactile sense of it, of like getting it in your hands, getting dirty, going out planting. I don't think it's just in the expressive arts, which is a great opportunity, but you can be creative in loads of different areas. But for me, creativity is all about the process of receiving something, just like an idea, a song title, cooking. Like I don't see it just underneath that, and then just going with the process and seeing what happens. That for me is what creativity really embodies.
I think so. I think it was you that sent me a Instagram short with this a woman whose name I can't remember now, so I beg her pardon, was saying about the educational system as it exists is almost designed to teach creativity out of a child.
Yeah. I think
Because
it's
in a
John
sense,
Robinson.
I think it's, if we were all just sitting behind an easel or in front of a piano, the world would not work, would it? So, in some senses, we have maybe creative people are some kind of like freeloaders or grifters. I don't know, but yes, I do think that creativity is. We don't know what to do with it both in in kind of educative terms or kind of commercial terms, but I remember I think you know the story, and I just want the excuse to tell it because it's just one of my favourite stories. But Ken Robinson, people might know
Yeah.
Ken Robinson, who's has lots of really interesting and actually quite controversial. I don't regard them as controversial, but they are
No.
seen as controversial and quite, very almost reactionary about allowing children the opportunity to create. And I think you do know this story. But he was in he went into an art class one day, and he was wandering around, and the kids were doing, like rabbits or houses, and he came across this little girl who was bent over, and she was almost like hiding what she was, and he was trying to see, and so he said to her, "Excuse me, what are you painting?" And she looked up and she said, "Oh, I'm painting God." And he said, "Painting God? Um, the thing is, nobody knows what God looks like." And she looked up at him and said, "Well, they will in a minute." That is just one of the most, I love that story. It's my
Magic. Kids are
the
just
magic. And there was no
yeah.
arrogance
Yeah.
or anything.
No,
It's
no,
just,
no, no, no.
that's the thing I love about that
They're
story.
just in the moment, Gary. Like when you're around children of that age, and that's usually the age that I taught, like early years, year one, there is such innocence there, but also permission to feel and permission to be completely in that moment, which we kind of
Mm,
lose as we get older. We're, quite rigid and we've learned how to be and conditioned. But when you're around children at that age, it's about play, it's about feeling, it's about expressing. And then we're already teaching it out of them by year two. And
yeah.
it's so sad to witness these beautiful little magical beings that are just so remarkable, and they're just not given the space to be. And not all schools, there's incredible educational institutes out there, fabulous, but a lot of the time that they just don't have the funding, unfortunately, anymore to support the children in areas that they need. It's devastating to witness, and that's why I feel when people have that in them, that creativity, and really, a deep yearning to express it, and if they come back to it when they're older, and they have someone like you that can hold the space for them and be brutally honest, which you're known for, Gary, in a very which I love. No, but it's a beautiful trait because you've got a respect
Mm.
behind you that you are doing it for the love of the person, and where they may have some blind spots, you're very good at addressing that. And I
Oh,
think
well, thank you. I mean, it is tricky. I mean, you would have realized that, if I'm working with somebody, while I'm working with them, I'm not their friend.
no,
It's like, any relationship that we have is temporarily put on hold because
yeah,
the only thing that is important to me is the words either in front of me on the screen or on the page. So if the work is good, I will say it's good. If it's not good, I will say it's not good. And I mean, one of my ex partners was Ryan. She's quite successful now, but we would. She would spend hours together on the couch, and I would be quite brutal. I could be quite brutal about the work. Sometimes there would be tears and stuff, but I was like, I can't afford to pay any attention to that. But when we stop, it's like, okay, then the relationship starts again. It's like, sorry, was that a bit rough? Don't worry, darling. I'll go make you a cup of tea. You have to be. I mean, there is that ruthlessness. I think that I'm not naturally ruthless, but I
no,
think it has to be present. There can't be any other agenda than the work itself.
yes,
You've asked me to work with you to make this work the best work that it can be. So everything else then has to be sacrificed for that end to be achieved, if that makes sense.
totally. And I think it's very rare, Gary, like going back to the point when we're talking about writers and they want to be published, and looking, I've sent my children's novel off to 65, I think, agents, and I think rejected from about 15 to 20, and I haven't heard back from any other agents at the moment. And that's okay. Like, that's okay. The book's still brilliant. I feel like the characters are incredible, the story's great, I love it all. But there's a lot of people that will be writing, or publishers that will see people, influencers online, or writers writing for a particular genre, and they'll be telling them what they want because they know marketing at the moment, they know what's on trend, so they will become something to that writer. And if they've got, you know, a tiny part of them that needs validation, having that reflected back to you, which fills in those voids and those part of you that don't think you're good enough, or, you know, the lucrative money that comes in, oh, it's a great book but we just need to change this and this, and here's, you know, an advance of 250,000. And it's, you know, it's tempting and I understand why people do that, but for me, and that's why I value you so much as a mentor and an editor, is you don't pull any punches. If it's shit, it's shit. If it needs work, it
It
needs
needs
work.
work.
If it's good, it's good. Well, I like
Yeah,
it's a
it's
respectful relationship.
hmm.
It's because I wouldn't want anything less. You know, I've had people tell me what to do in the past, and I'm like, piss off. Like, I don't respect you, and you don't live by the values that you're telling me that I should be living by. Whereas you, because you live by your values, because you really champion really good writers, because you've had such vast experience, because you're well read and you've got a good heart and you've got integrity and you're honest, that's why I feel whatever you do say, I'm like, yeah, cool. Or, you know, we've had a couple of things where we have a conversation about it, but it's never that I feel that you are trying to change my book and what I'm trying to put out into the world. You are there as a space to make it the best thing in the world. And that is so rare, Gary. Like, so
No, it is. Yeah.
rare,
Well, no,
so
is it? No,
rare.
I just say it. Is it? No, maybe it is. Sorry, I
No, it's incredibly
jumped in
rare.
there. But I'd just like to say again, yeah, I do have integrity, a good heart, and I am honest.
Yeah. Yeah, but those
No, I
things
am.
are very rare to find, Gary.
Um,
And I feel like once you have it in your life, it's like an algorithm. You know, sometimes back in the day, I mean, my algorithm for life was not good. And then when you actually meet someone like that, that can meet you where you are, you're sometimes a bit mistrusting of it at the beginning, because especially for me, especially working with men, unfortunately, in my experience with men, I was like, well, what does he want? What does he
my
want?
experience with men are pretty terrible as well.
Yeah, that's where we
We
join
won't go
together as
there. That's not
well.
appropriate.
That's where
Um,
we join as well. And I'm just like, well, what does he want? Like, why is he doing this? And it's really unfortunate to, you know, start a relationship, a working relationship like that. But it's honest. I felt nervous at the beginning. I was like, is he just saying this to me because he's got other agendas? Because I've grown up like that. I've been in society
yeah,
like that, and I've been
yeah.
around a lot of men like that. So to actually change my algorithm and now have you as part of my new algorithm of life of men is very
Well, I mean, I
special.
would say that an inherent suspicion of men is very much to be cultivated and desired, but you know my stance on men, preferably on their windpipe. But no, Gary, don't go down. No, right, slam that door closed. That's not for today. But no, I think, I mean, in terms of creativity and teaching it, if you're not operating from, a platform based on honesty, then, well, I shouldn't be. If I'm not honest, then I shouldn't be doing it. I don't like saying negative things. I don't like if I upset somebody. I mean, no, I live with it for weeks and weeks and weeks. But I'd much rather say to everyone, "Your work is fantastic, yes, blah." But the thing is, if they start putting their work out into the world, they will very, very quickly be told, either directly or through more subtle means, that it's not what people want. Not, but there again, I mean, I would just say a few words about what the publishing industry, and that includes like literary agents and stuff. It is a complete and utter. No, I don't care if I become blackballed to persona grata. It's a shit show.
Mhm,
It's an absolute shit show.
mhm,
This is based on experience that I've had both personally and through other writers that, have literally just been published or are about to be published.
mhm,
There's a famous phrase by William Goldman, who wrote Adventures in the Screen Trade. He was a screenwriter. He said, like, in Hollywood, nobody knows anything. And I think that applies to the publishing industry as
mhm,
well. They simply don't know what they want. And it is, I think, there's two things that you need to be published. You need to have the luck, and your timing needs to be good.
Mm-hmm.
Your book, if it's brilliant, well, that's great. If it's mediocre, it doesn't really matter. If you've got luck and timing on your side, you will get through the door. Now, that might sound really, really cynical, but I've seen so much evidence of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's perfectly possible to write a phenomenally good book. Jim has not been very aggressive in his approach to publishers and agents, but he has yet to receive a full manuscript request.
Wow.
And Jim's work, and he's
That's
not paying me,
exceptional.
he's not controlling me with his foot. Are you, Jim? No. His work is extraordinary. It
Mm-hmm.
makes no sense that Jim is not published. It makes no sense whatsoever.
It's so interesting. So I remember the first time that I did meet Jim, and he gave me a copy of his book and a postcard, a beautiful postcard with a lovely note inside it, The Alice Frequency. And I devoured that book within, I think, a couple of days, and I've never, ever read anything like it. And perhaps
No, it's
ever. It was extraordinary. The journey that I went on with those characters and the narrative, and how he captures a moment, creating the scene, and then takes you to this detour, and then you're thrust into this world. And it's quite unnerving on occasions,
oh
because
yes, it's pretty unnerving. Yeah.
very unnerving, but remarkable. And perhaps, I don't know, perhaps that is part of it, when you create something so unique, so remarkable, that sometimes agents don't really know what to do
They
with.
don't know what to do with it. I mean, I think I'm in danger of becoming across as quite simplistic, because one person's masterpiece is another person's
Mm,
doggerel. And of course, we can never rid ourselves of the demon of subjectivity. There are certain novelists that I do not like, but are genuinely popular. So
mhm,
I'm, sort of very much, I think, rowing against the tide. But it would seem to me that I do think that great writing should be able to be recognised by whoever's in the industry.
mhm.
There
Um,
should be, but I think, have we lost the notion of what good writing is?
well, but perhaps.
Because the commercial imperative, for me, novels are being sort of sold and published. They're like white goods, dishwashers, washing machines, novels. It's that I don't know. I just feel that there's something rotten in the state of the publishing industry, to paraphrase.
Well, I think I think you're right in regards to. I just think about podcasts now and the way that we access information. The short form is much more easily digested for the people that are on, the train, or have had a busy day at work. A lot of people want that quick fix, a dopamine hit, to sit down with a good novel. A lot of people may want escapism. They may want a invitation to a world they don't access, or the drama or the intensity. You got to think about, the shows that are popular on TV that we didn't have access to many years ago. And more people have the ability to publish as well, because it's like, obviously for me, that's going to be my next route,
Oh yeah,
self-publishing,
self-publishing.
because
Yeah.
I don't want fame. I want freedom. And that, honestly, I'd love to be picked up by a publisher for them to do all of that work for me. That's my main thing, that I just want to reach people and go around so kids can have the stories, but actually bringing the freedom back to me. And I was a bit dismissive of Amazon, because I just thought there's 170,000 people publishing out there. It just sounds like it's just going to be another drop in the ocean. But actually, if you take ownership and agency over it, then you can have the opportunity to design the cover, get the right people involved. It's a little bit more work, and but will it potentially reach the people that you want? But I think the world's changed, and what's popular has changed, and what people are focusing on is changing. And I think that does take away the time that people really do invest in good books. They want something a bit simpler sometimes.
Yeah, and I wonder about my people I've spoken to who've gone through that, the agent, then publisher. It seems to me that once it's gone through the various editorial processes and marketing, you've had a go at it and blah 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 blah. I wonder if to is it the same bloody novel then? It's like Trigger's Broom. Is it the
Yeah.
same bloody broom?
Yeah.
Um, and I and it's very, very difficult, because once once you've gone, sucked into the pipe,
Yeah.
and people are saying, yeah, we'll publish it, and you're being told all these lovely things, it is very difficult, I think, to maintain a sense of perspective. I
Totally.
mean, I've been in a position where, I've actually walked away from stuff, and I look
Mhm.
back now and think, was that stupid? Possibly it was. But I'm just reminded of the story that of a quote from Steve Martin, who said, I sent my new script to the studio last week and they didn't change a single word. The single word they didn't change was on page 79. And obviously you can't be ridiculously precious. You do have to, think, okay, I've got to be a little bit flexible here. I need to be able to bend a little bit. But I would want to be able to say at the end of that is mine.
Mhm.
I know it's been blah blah, but I don't know. It seems to me, perhaps naively, that I don't know. I'm very cynical, and not particularly happy with the way that we're getting novels into people's hands onto the shelves in Waterstones or Daunt or Foyles. Other bookshops are available. Yeah, perhaps I've just got this. I don't know, this sort of pie in the sky, airy fairy tale notion of what it's like to be published. It's I don't know. I don't know.
No, I think it's just really challenging. But you've had quite a few of your writers that have been in your writers group and people that you've mentored published.
Yes, I mean, Grace, who I've mentioned. I'll say Grace Walker. Her novel The Merge is coming out. I think it's the end of November when the book launches on. I've worked with Grace for years and years, and she picked up and could be a bestseller. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember I worked on the book with her. Um, Poets. Yeah, I've had people. I'm reluctant to mention their names without their permission, but I have seen people cross that Rubicon, um, which from this side of the river looks beautiful. Oh, it's so lovely and that. But then you cross and then you get out and immediately step into a patch of stinging nettles and you think, was it worth it?
What for them, Gary? Was it in regards to them getting picked up and published? Do you think it was those two variables that you said in regards to luck and timing? Do
I
you believe?
think so. And that's not to take
Oh no,
away.
totally.
I mean, the two people I'm thinking of, three people I'm thinking of, I would say yes. But that's, it's a bit like a lottery. It is, in some senses, it's a gamble.
Hmm.
And if you've got good timing is everything in life, as we know,
Hmm.
and luck, that's what you need.
Hmm.
The idea that raw talent will take you to your destination, I'd like to think that's true. But my experience and the experiences of other people I've spoken to would very much go against that notion.
Hmm. I guess it.
Because I think you talked about the kids' book.
Mhm.
Now, I cannot, for the life of me, understand how it wasn't immediately picked up. Not because I have an investment, not because but it's. I mean, you've had people read it. I've had a few people read it. And this is amazing. Why was it not picked up? And I think that's what frustrates me. Not, it's just the book should be out there.
Mhm.
Even if, okay, so you can't have your name on it, you won't get any money off it, but it will be out there. That's fine. But the
Mhm.
fact that the gatekeepers inevitably, I think, are keeping good um, work, good writing, good books from the general public. It's always been like that, and of course, I'm not daft, but when I see a book that that deserves to be in the world and isn't, it does. It does. I mean, it's a tiny piece of my soul withers and dies.
I think from my perspective, Gary, it's just like writing the book. As I said to you before, the characters came to me, and for me, when I visualize it, it's not me. It's really interesting. You know, like when they say the whole manifestation goal at the end, it's like visualize it. You in the place,
Oh yeah, that's right.
feeling
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Once you visualize it, it will materialize. The immediate thing that comes to my mind is a little girl, like I get goosebumps now, a little girl reading it with her mum or dad or grandma or just reading it herself. And a little part of what the little girl goes through in the story resonates with her, so she doesn't feel alone. That's a visualization. I don't get it like getting an award or £100,000. Generally not. And I mean, that would be great to have that money, quite frankly. But it's never been about that. It's a feeling that evokes in someone so they feel less alone. That's, I think that is everything I
Mm,
do. If I could break my creativity down into one sentence, that's it. So people don't feel alone. That, and I feel that's why all these characters come to me. The poems that I write, you know, when I show up in certain places or I have a conversation with something or something. Yeah, I'm talking to anything that will listen. But when I sit, that's what propels me forward. That sort of connection. I just don't want people to feel alone. And I feel like there's so many kids out there that do navigate a lot, and parents are busy. You know, understandably, like, you know, cost of living,
mm.
everything that's going on, families aren't close by. But just to have the physical book in their hand and them smiling and then creating from it, or it might spark something in their lives. That's the vision. That's what I'm manifesting. That's what I visualize, just having the physical thing. And you know, it's, I've got to take it into my own hands now. My next plan is to do a bit of a campaign in schools where children that are neurodivergent, dyslexic, they have the opportunity to illustrate the book. And then I thought, oh
Oh,
god,
fantastic.
yeah, I just thought, and then I thought all the kids that enter the competition will feel really sad. So my next part to that is that obviously there'll be one winner that illustrates the book, but every child that enters, their name will be in the book. So then they can, because I just really feel, especially kids with additional needs,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's a lot, and there's a lot riding on it. Just one winner, but if I can get all of the names of all the children that enters in the book, I mean, how magical would that be? That they, okay, their picture's not on the front, but they've entered a competition and they're involved in the book, and they can have a physical copy of that, and you know, just in their bedroom or on their table, wherever, and they're part of the book. Then it's about them as well.
That is lovely. That is, yeah.
It
If we
came
were
to me.
talking just amongst ourselves and not on screen and this wasn't going to go into the world, I would burst into tears at this point.
It just came to me because I
Mm.
really thought there's so many kids out there that don't get the opportunity. The next thing for me is to sort out this campaign and do all the, like, the legwork. So that's the next thing to do. I just feel like it's you just feel seen and heard then, and how lovely to see your name like in a published book. It's now
Yeah, yeah.
just bringing all of that to bringing it into fruition now with all the 25 other things that I'm spinning at the moment. It's like that. So Gary, just like, last thing, just to pull it all together. So someone, any advice that you would give,
Put it all together. Yeah, go on.
bringing all your pearls of wisdom, your experience, who you are as a person, what you know, what you don't know, what advice would you have for anybody out there that wanted to start writing? They've got this idea, they really would like to start writing. How,
Um,
what
the
advice
glib answer
would
would
you
be don't find something else to do. You know, there's that notion everyone's got a book in them. Yes, but in most cases, that's exactly where it should remain. Um, if you do have, I say, a genuine desire to write, because
Yeah.
writing, for some reason, for people that maybe don't write, writing is seen, it's like it's cool and it's sexy and I want a piece of that pie. I mean, for the people that do it, we know that's not the
Definitely
reality.
not.
But if you have that almost inchoate desire to write, you can't necessarily make sense of it. You couldn't write a paragraph about why you want to write. But
Yeah.
if you feel you have that thing within you, then absolutely do explore it. If you want to write just because you want to be able to go into a bookshop and go, "There's my book," or you've got this notion that you're going to become wealthy, etc. No, don't do that. It'd be better to buy a lottery ticket. But if there is that thing within you, well, your thing will be different to everybody else's thing, but that desire to genuinely try and express yourself in words, to say something that you can't say in the course of like normal conversation, down the pub or across the desk from your co-workers. I think writing expresses, for me, expresses the inexpressible. I can't say what I want to say any other way, and I do feel that what I want to say, I think deserves to be out there. So if you have something similar to that, then absolutely go for it. Do be prepared to be incredibly miserable, incredibly frustrated. It's a long journey there, and um, there was a quote from Hemingway which I suddenly can't grasp, but yeah, give it a go. The worst thing you could do is, it's better to try now and fail than to spend the rest of your life. Somebody I work with didn't start writing until quite late in life and really regretted all the years that they hadn't written. And I said, well, no, but you can't really say that. Just, start now and just devote yourself to it. Actually, it was Jim. I don't know why I'm not giving with thanks, Jim. No, and because Jim came to writing quite late, but it doesn't really matter. Lots of novelists didn't start until late and didn't break through until they were, in more advanced years. So it's better to try something and fail than not to try it. And then when you're lying on your deathbed and somebody tells you you've got 20 minutes to go, damn, I wish I'd written that book, or damn, I wish I'd done that.
Mm-hmm.
Try and live a life where you accrue as few regrets as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be the last thing I'm going to say.
That's amazing. Well, there's going to be there's going to be one more. There's going to be some more things. Just a moment, because obviously this podcast is called On the Brink. Can you and it can be a seemingly positive or negative moment, but can you just talk about a moment where you were on the brink of something? That could be success or seeming failure, but it turned out beyond anything you could have imagined.
Oh gosh, I should have worked. Yeah.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Um, I suppose this is probably something I should have said earlier on. I think because of who I am and how I am, kind of emotionally, spiritually, and mentally, I suppose every day I feel on. I do genuinely, and I'm
Yeah.
not just saying that in order to satisfy you. I
Mm.
do feel kind of on the brink. I feel as though I'm dancing on the, on the edge of a beachy head in a force 9 gale in a ball gown and stilettos, and the chances of me not being blown off are fairly remote. But then I might argue to turn that back to somewhere a bit more positive. I think that on the brinkness is, if I survive it, is very, very useful for my creativity.
Mm-hmm.
Because creativity takes you to places where largely uncomfortable. A lot of people I've worked with give up writing because it's disinterred stuff, both personal stuff, but also the novel itself. If it's not directly based on it, it's like, oh God, there's stuff happening in the novel. I can't deal with that.
Yeah.
So do bear in mind, with writing, if you don't like blood and internal organs suddenly becoming external organs, maybe don't do it. It's brutal and it's bloody, but like so much of life that's brutal and bloody, that they're the parts of life that are perhaps most worth living. I don't know.
I think you've encapsulated creativity to the T. You're just constantly teetering, teetering. That's
Yeah,
how
I'm
I feel.
teetering on. I am teetering.
Yeah, teetering, but you don't know what's got. And I guess it's the unknown a lot of the time, Gary. The way that we write, it's you and I write very much in a similar way. We just let it unfold, and that's quite uncomfortable for a lot of people to work in that way. But if you can be on the brink and you can live in that uncertainty with openness and accept everything that's going to come your way and take full accountability for it and take those moments to really soak in all of it and feel all of it and allow it to show you, it's beautiful as well. And if you can see all of those rather than just seeking these magical joyful moments, but see the joy and the depth and all the difficult times too, it's all there. I do feel like, to help you once you have gone through it, not right at the beginning when you've had a big trauma, you've got to process it, but there are moments there when you reflect back or look back at it. There
Mm.
was magic in those moments too, and it takes you to the depths that creatives go to and writers go to. What did someone say to me once? It's like I was dating a guy and I just couldn't quite work him out. She goes, listen, some people are as deep as a puddle and other people are deep as an ocean. He's deep as a puddle. And I was like, right, okay, so I'm a bit more of an ocean. He hasn't got his snorkel, he's just got his wellies. Do you know what I mean?
I always say, I used to say when I did with my rant about men, I pick up a sheet of paper and I go, most men have less depth than this sheet of A4. And all the women in the reviews were like, oh, yeah. On the brink, no, thank you. You just reminded me. Yeah, yes, because I don't know what the next sentence is going to be. Creatively, I am always on the brink.
That's what I feel like. And once you can really make peace with that, and just trust it, it's hard. I think you
Yeah.
said this to me before, Gary. So I think I was having a moment where I was just like, all my friends married, kids, house, job, a bit of security. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is hard. And he said something about the creative life, and it really just gave me some sort of peace in that moment. But I was just like, God, because I feel like it chooses you. You get an offering, right? Here you go. Here it is. Do you choose it? And
Yeah.
then when you say
Yeah.
yes, you have to be fully aware of everything that comes with it. And I choose it. I choose it every day. So
Yes, and in a way, you can't pick and choose. You can't go, I'll have
no,
that, and I don't know what that. I'll
no,
leave that.
no, no.
You take the package, everything
Yeah.
everything that's in the box.
Hmm.
You have to take,
Yeah. And I've
get,
realised that.
use.
I've realised that someone said it about someone's life. I was like, oh God, they're married, they live in a beautiful house, they've got a husband, two kids, have no financial struggles. And then someone says, well, you can have it. And I was like, yeah, yeah. She goes, but all of it. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. She goes, but every single part of it. And I was like, no. And it's the same about creativity. If I was told tomorrow I could have 2 million, but I was never, ever, ever allowed to create again, I couldn't write. I wouldn't, genuinely, hand on heart, I wouldn't take it, Gary.
No, I wouldn't
I,
either.
would, I really wouldn't. And, for me at the moment, financial security is, the abundant. I'm abundant in so many different areas of my life, but that's the one, it comes, it ebbs and flows. But I wouldn't change it. I would not change it. I wouldn't take it because I have to create, Gary. I have to write. I have to be, I have to surrender to this way of being.
Yeah.
And if my book is never published and never picked up, I still think it's a fucking powerful, brilliant book.
You
I,
should have that as the last word. I just
yes,
go on, say it again.
I if I never get published, if I never get picked up by an agent, I think my book is a fucking brilliant, powerful, incredible book, and that will never change. Thank you so much, Gary. It's always a joy, always so insightful, and always so much fun. I thank you so much for giving up your time and sharing your time with me finally, because we've been talking about this for a while.
We have. No, it's been fantastic. Thank you very much, Carl,
Thank you so much,
for
Gary.
inviting me on. And I look forward to seeing it when it's
Well,
done and out in the
yeah,
world.
I need to work on that. But this is just the beginning. I feel like this could be the first chapter of many podcasts with you and I, Gary.
Oh,
Watch this space,
lovely.
everybody. You doesn't know this yet, but it's happening.
Let's hope it's a slim volume. No.
Thanks a lot.
Carly, thank you so much. Take
Cheers.
care,
Bye.
and I'll see you again soon in a
See you
writing
soon.
and editing capacity.